Nairobi is once again facing the harsh reality of flooding after days of heavy rain. Homes have been damaged, roads have been submerged, and frustration among residents is growing. But the city's governor says he will not step down. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has dismissed calls for his resignation following widespread flooding across the capital, insisting he remains focused on addressing the city's challenges despite growing criticism from residents and observers. Speaking on Sunday, March 8th, after several days of heavy rainfall that flooded estates and disrupted movement across Nairobi, the governor said he continues to work within the limits of the county government while responding to the emergency. The flooding left parts of the city submerged and damaged property in several neighborhoods and intensified concerns about drainage, waste management, and the capacity of the city's infrastructure. The rains came down steadily across Nairobi, bringing them a familiar and troubling scene. Floods, waters filled roads and estates in several parts of the capital. Vehicles stalled in waterlogged streets. Homes in low-lying neighborhoods were surrounded by muddy water, and in some areas, families had to leave their homes temporarily as drainage systems struggled to carry the heavy runoff. For many residents, the situation disrupted their daily life, and traffic slowed to a crawl across key roads. Public transport struggled to move through flooded sections. Businesses closed early in some areas as water levels continued to rise. Emergency response teams were deployed to several estates where residents needed assistance. Amid the growing frustration, questions quickly turned to the city's leadership and preparedness. Calls for accountability began to circulate, with some residents and critics demanding that the governor take responsibility for the recurring flooding. But Governor Johnson Sakaja rejected those claims. Speaking after assessing the situation, he said stepping down was not an option and that his focus remains on addressing the serious problem. He explained that the expectations placed on the leadership of the capital are extremely high, but the county government operates within limitations that affect how quickly solutions can be implemented. And according to the governor, Nairobi requires far greater financial investment to modernize its infrastructure and reduce the impact of flooding. He said that the level of resources needed to transform the capital into a modern city compared to leading global cities runs into tens of billions of shillings. And without such investment, he said the county government remains largely responsible to routine operations such as paying halal salaries and also maintaining essential services. As floods waters rose in several neighborhoods, the county government activated emergency response measures. One of the most visible interventions involved the deployment of rescue boats to areas where roads had become impassable. In estates such as Mwiki in Kasarani, some residents could only be reached by water after streets became flooded. Emergency teams used boats to reach the affected families and help them move to safer regions. The use of boats attracted attention and in some cases criticism on social media, but the governor defended the decision. He explained that in certain estates the water levels made conventional rescue methods impossible, and boats, he said, were necessary to reach people trapped in flooded homes or stranded in submerged streets. Emergency response teams also worked with the various government agencies to coordinate rescue efforts and manage the situation in affected areas. The flooding once again exposed the complexity of managing a rapidly growing urban center. Nairobi is a home to millions of residents, and its infrastructure in many areas was designed decades ago for a much smaller population. As the city expanded, pressure of drainage system, roads and waste management services increased, and now heavy rainfall often reveals those weaknesses. Stormwater flows through streets that lack sufficient drainage. Unplugged drains slow the movement of water, and garbage dumped in waterways prevents runoff from moving freely. and Governor Sakaja said the recent floods highlighted long-standing urban management challenges in the capital. He pointed particularly to the waste disposal practices across the city, and the improper dumping of garbage, he said, contributes to the blocking of drainage systems. When drains become clogged, even moderate rainfall can lead to flooding in some areas. The governor urged residents to take greater responsibility in how waste is handled within neighborhoods. According to him, waste management is a shared responsibility between the county government and the public. To address the problem, the county government is implementing a broader waste management system, and the plan includes improvements in garbage collection and the creation of transfer stations where waste can be sorted before being transported to final disposal sites. Recycling facilities are also part of the plan, and new waste management infrastructure is expected to be developed in areas such as Ruai and Dandora. The goal, according to the county administration, is to create a system that handles waste more efficiently while reducing the amount that ends up in drainage channels. But while long-term plans are being developed, residents who are affected by the recent floods are dealing with immediate losses, and some households reported damage to furniture and personal belongings after floods waters entered homes. Vehicles stalled in submerged roads suffered mechanical damage. Small businesses located in flooded areas lost stock and income during the disruption. When asked whether affected residents could receive compensation, the governor said the county government would not be providing payments for the property losses. He explained that several of the areas where flooding occurred fall outside the direct jurisdiction of the county government. And according to him, some of the roads and infrastructure affected by the flooding are managed by national government agencies rather than the county administration. And in such cases, he said, the county cannot assume responsibility for damages linked to infrastructure it does not control. The governor also addressed the questions about his visibility during the flooding, and some critics had suggested that the city's leadership should have been seen more publicly at flooded sites. But Sakaja said that his role during the emergency was to coordinate response teams rather than to appear on location. He explained that the response required communication with the several government institutions responsible for different parts of the city's infrastructure. Among the agencies involved in the response were the Kenya Urban Roads Authority and the Kenya National Highways Authority, both of which oversee major roads network within the capital. Coordination between these agencies and the county government was necessary to manage the emergency response and address blocked roads. The flooding has once again drawn attention to Nairobi's long struggle with urban planning challenges. As the city continues to grow, the need for improved drainage systems, better waste management, and coordinated infrastructure planning becomes more urgent. Heavy rains events often bring these issues into sharp focus, and they highlight both the vulnerabilities within the city and the scale of investment required to address them. And for residents who experienced flooding in their neighborhoods, the issue goes beyond infrastructure planning. It affects daily life, safety, and economic stability. And when homes flood, families lose property. And when roads become impassable, workers struggle to reach their jobs. And when businesses close because of flooding, the impact is felt across the local economy. These are the realities many Nairobi residents face during the latest wave of heavy rain. As the water gradually recedes in flooded areas, the focus now shifts to recovery and also preparation for future storms. City authorities say efforts are underway to clear blocked drainage channels and also remove accumulated waste from waterways. At the same time, longer-term solutions are being discussed as the city continues to search for ways to strengthen its infrastructure. Governor Sakaja says those solutions will require cooperation between county authorities, national government agencies, and residents themselves. Because in a city as large as the complex as Nairobi, managing urban challenges is really the responsibility of a single office. And as Nairobi dries out after another round of heavy rain, the floods have once again delivered a clear reminder that building a resilient capital requires more than emergency response, it requires lasting solutions. This is Carelessly Media and I'm Edwin Mukaya.